For me, the biggest opportunities are in the smallest stories. I grew up in a house where my grandmother, who was born in Morocco, would actually tell me a lot of small stories, and it would catch completely my attention, and it would capture everything about what I would think about every single day. My dad is a storyteller. Everyone I know is really a storyteller. Today, I'm going to tell you about 3 stories that have completely shaped my journey. I've actually built 3 companies on the back of people's stories. And these stories are about actually 3 women. And I want to make the claim that the biggest opportunities are in the smallest of stories. The first woman I will tell you about is Ndilimeke. She's from Grootfontein, Namibia. The second woman, Othilie, who's from Akinin in the eastern side of Namibia. And the third woman, Inge, who's right at the border of Angola in a town called Ruacana. Let's start with Ndilimeke. At 24, I moved to Namibia. I quit my job at Credit Suisse in investment banking. And I told myself I was going to go build housing. I built about 17 homes in my first batch, and I couldn't sell one. Here I was, a totally failed entrepreneur. Ndilimeke was one of my 17 clients. The houses were completely built. Actually, you think that construction is about moving ground and doing all sorts of things and getting projects approved and plans approved and buying materials and hiring people. But it's not about the blueprints. There's so much more that goes into it. Logistics, financing, regulation, endless setbacks. I was 24, 25. I was almost 2 years building housing, and I actually couldn't figure out how to sell the homes. You think the hardest part was the hardest part. The truth is, I was being blocked by a guy in a municipality who didn't want me to sell the houses, as you would know. I was being blocked by the banks because my houses were cheaper than any mortgage they ever gave, and I was selling them for a smallest margin, so they didn't want to approve my mortgages. And the main office that approved the actual documentation to settle between one person and another, to move the title, blocked all of my transactions because they said a document was missing in their office. But then, here's where I say that listening to a story can change your life. I wasn't just building housing and selling them and having a sales office. I spent time listening to the stories of the people I was building housing for. And Ndilimeke told me she was pregnant, she was going to give birth, she had no place to live. I knew her story upside down. And I reached out to the minister in the country, and I told her the story of Ndilimeke. I didn't tell her I wanted to sell homes and get things moving. I actually went to her. This is a sneaky photo someone took in that meeting. That's Sophia Shaningwa, who was a minister of housing, and that's me at 25 trying to convince her to help me break bureaucracy. 2016, about a year and a half after I had started my journey, she was the first person I ever moved into a home. In 3 days after my meeting with the minister, her story broke every bureaucracy. She called the title deeds office, she called the municipality, she called the banks. And she threatened every single one that if they were blocking me for just bureaucratic purposes, she would get into their office and deal with them, I quote. The most amazing thing, how a story can actually begin your journey. Actually, that home was the first of hundreds of homes I've built in Namibia. I later built homes in Cameroon, I built homes in Zambia, but all on the back of one lady's story who gave me the conviction to break bureaucracy and get things moving. The second story might change your life, if not just mine. It's a story of a woman who actually sold her house to put her daughter through school. It takes me back to an eastern town right at the border of Botswana, of Akinin. I was on the roof of a school I was building, sponsored by the Kirsch Foundation and Palms for Life. 2 NGOs were funding me to build a school for the San community. If you're familiar with the San, they are the Bushmen. And this woman you see over there, Othilie, annoyed me like you have no idea. Please come down, I want to talk to you, I want to talk to you. I said, lady, I'm putting up solar panels with my team, which I knew nothing about, so I'm trying to pay extra attention. Eventually, I come down. And she tells me that she wants those zinc. The zinc materials that you find, the shack, she wants it for herself. I said to her, you must be kidding. You have a home. This is her home. She was the only family in Ochinene that actually had a built home. I don't know if you're familiar with really rural towns, but this was an urban area in a rural town, not a village, and everyone lived in a shack except her. Out of sweat, tears, and a lot of work, her husband and her built this home with mud and put it together in an incredible and beautiful way. But then she told me a crazy story. This is the school that we were building right in front, an ECD center. She said, I want that shack because I sold my home so I can pay for school fees for my daughter's university. Approximately today, $1,000 it cost to go to university in Windhoek, Namibia, in the capital. And she needed $1,000 to sign her daughter up for school. So she sold her home. I couldn't believe the story. I actually made her go to the bank, bring me all the documents, prove to me that she had actually sold her home. And as she breastfed, she told me her whole story. I put it up on Facebook. So I came up with a crazy idea on the moment, listening to this story. I said, what if I could give mortgages to a woman like this? And I said, give me your daughter's number. She lives in the capital, right? Yeah, she just signed up for university, 19 years old. I said, Mercy, do you want a job? I'm willing to pay you $400 a month. You come 3 times to my office every week, but I will discount 1/3 of that every month to pay for your mom's house. She's paying for your school. Mercy wanted to be Miss Namibia. She had no interest in buying a home or much less working in an office, but I told her, you'll be the first employee of a company that will give mortgages. That's Mercy with the International Finance Corporation on her first day of work when she actually started launching events about capital markets and giving mortgages. 4 years later, her mother called me. I was no longer in Namibia. I was working now in Zambia, where I run JABU from there. She said, I want you to fly in for a very special occasion. My daughter's graduated university. 4 years later. I only hired her for 1 year. I don't know what she did the other 3. But the most incredible part of this story is that the day she graduated, she got a job earning the exact same amount that her mom's house cost every month. This is the story of a relentless woman that is changing the world, that is changing her home. I remember the phrase she gave me that made me give mortgages. That was the first mortgage I gave in Namibia. The phrase was, David, my entire family, generation after generation, has been living in misery and we can't get out. If I don't do anything completely different from what the people before me did, my kids will live in the same conditions. But her story allowed us to start Fundroof, to get people like Mercy to pay for her mother's homes, to get the financing they needed to do these type of things. And with the time I have, I'll tell you the third story that led me to start JABU, which is probably the most successful thing I have done in my career, but also the story that revolutionized me the most. This happened to me in the border of Angola and Namibia, just because I took the time to listen to someone's story. This woman, where I was building housing in the bush, as we say in Namibia, came to me with 2,000 rand, just a bit over $100. And she said, Tate David, I want to buy 20 bags of cement. I said, I don't sell cement. Now this lady, Inge, sold onions outside my little office in a little kiosk for like 1 rand per onion. This is less than 10 cents, 5 cents. So I was super curious, where the hell did she get $100-something equivalent to buy cement from me? So I sold her the cement. In retrospect for this story, I shouldn't have. That's me delivering the cement on the left. When I arrived, you're impressed, I was pissed. There was 30,000 cement bricks in her plot. Now, I'm breaking my back trying to make bricks in this town. It was impossible. My brother actually flew to China, and we spent about $40,000 between equipment and transport to get a brick-making factory in this town. And here's another supplier I've never heard of. I was wrong. I took the time to listen to her story. She had been saving for 18 months, buying a bag of cement every weekend, and making her own bricks for almost 2 years. She made 30,000 cement bricks, and here's my dream of building homes. I'm building homes 50 at a time. That's as much as you can do if you're a contractor. And here's a woman running her own shop doing these things. This is Inge's home. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom en suite. I paid nothing of it. She built a home on the back of a shop that earned her $150 to $200 in revenue every month. I was doing something wrong. The moral of the story is to listen to the story. People like Inge can revolutionize an entire SME sector if you allow them to do it themselves. People like Othilie can put millions of students through university if you allow her to access the capital markets and her children. And people like the soldier that Ndilimeke was, that couldn't live in the barracks with her baby, deserve a home while they serve their country. But who is listening to the stories to make of it massive opportunities? The biggest opportunities are in these small stories. The informal economy is at the core of Africa. This is Joanna, my first client when I started JABU. We've been working with women-led community savings groups. For all of you who are running banks, go listen to how people save, how people earn, how people spend. This has revolutionized how we digitize cash, how we put machines at petrol stations and supermarkets and tell people, put your cash in our machine and we'll give it to you instantly in your bank account. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is to listen. Millions of traders are out there. The economy is not cashless. The dreams are within. And if you just take the time to listen to their story, you'll find an opportunity to build on. Thank you.